Hello guys, today I'm ready with another video, and today's topic is very interesting. We are going to talk about uh, cell signaling. What does it mean exactly? Is that cell can talk to each other, being a multicellular organism where the coordination between the cells are very important. One cell communicate with the other about what is happening around, or a cell get the information about the surroundings and what is to be done, or the system which wants to convey some message to the cells, that is also going to be conveyed. So communication between the cell is going to be very important, and that is the topic of today. And this I call it as cell can talk, whether it is a plant cell or it's an animal cell or it may be the fungal one. So all the multicellular organism, um, from the animals to the plant to the fungi, it is well known in the case of animal and the plants. Earlier, it was known that plants do not communicate, but this concept has been changed. We know the plant can be equally good to communicate with each other in terms of the environmental condition, humidity, or the light intensity, or the quantity of the light, or the duration of the light. They can be easily conveyed. But today we are talking about what happens with the animals, how exactly the animal cell they communicate with each other, and how exactly the animal cells they get masses from the outside. So there'll be two ways we can talk about is that one is that the kind of molecules which we call a signal molecule or the first messenger, their nature do matter, because the kind of nature that they have, if they are the water soluble or hydrophilic, they do require the cell surface receptor. In other case, if they do have a nature which is hydrophobic, so they never require a receptor on the surface, rather they have a cellular receptor. This I spoke about my in my last video as well, where I was talking about the action of the hormones. But today we are going to talk about plainly about the cell signaling, or cell can talk to each other. Let me show you the few things we can begin with. If you see this carefully, what you'll come to understand is, and as I told you, the name of the topic is going to be cell can talk, or cell to cell interaction, or cell signaling, or cell communication. What is the basic requirement? If I talk about, so basic requirement will be the ligand. Ligand is the molecule, we call it the signal molecule or the first messenger. Then we require a receptor protein, which is present on the, in case of a hydrophilic molecule, on the cell surface, or it could be a soluble receptor in case of hydrophobic molecules. So it may be, as I told you, on the plasma membrane or within the cell. And cells, they do have ability, and they do have a nature to talk too much with each other, as the we human beings do. And what are the different stages? How exactly this message is passed, the entire cascade of the reaction, we call it as a signal transduction. First thing is that the reception, where the extracellular signal, which could be in the any form, especially in the form of molecule, will be coming and binding to the surface, and there'll be transduction, which could be the multi-step, which leads to the activation of the certain molecules or the set of molecules, and then response. So the molecule which is water soluble will never enter into the cell in order to communicate what exactly the message hidden into it, and response is going to be inside the cell. So this is the three steps which you see: the reception, which is on the surface, then the transduction, and then we have the response in the terms of the three important, the process, which could be the gene activation or the alteration of the gene expression, or maybe in terms of change in the metabolic pathways, or third, it can be some changes in the cytoskeletal behavior, especially in the animal cells. So this is how it is going to be. You have a surface receptor where the first ligand will come and bind to, and they will pass on the message to the intracellular signaling proteins, which could be called as a second messenger. In terms, many different actions will be taken. Just now I spoke about altered metabolism, altered gene expression, altered cell shape or the movement with the help of the cytoskeleton. And this is, I told you in the beginning, you have the two kind of receptor, one which is on the surface, another within the cell. And there could be many ways the signaling can occur. One, like ligand is still bound to a cell and the receptor is present on the another cell, which is the target cell. So this is usually called as juxtacrine, or maybe the paracrine, where the nearby cells, they get messages from the signaling cell. This could be synaptic in the case of neuron, or this could be the endocrine, which is also called as a long distance signaling, which is always going to be done with the help of bloodstream. And they have many hidden messages. They can tell a cell to survive, they can tell a cell to divide and grow, they can ask a cell to differentiate, or they may give a signal to apoptosis or program cell death, and cell will die eventually. Similarly, they have a, if you look at the one signal molecule, which has different effect on the different places. For example, acetylcholine, if it binds to the heart muscle cell, it will decrease the heart rate and the force of contraction. Where, I mean, exactly, it is going to cause the depolarization there. And in the case of skeletal muscles, if you look at, if it gets and it goes and binds to the neuromuscular junction, where it will cause the contraction of the cell. And similarly, if it goes to the salivary gland, it will cause the secretion of the saliva. That means a same signal molecule may have the multiple effect at the multiple places. Normally, there'll be three different kind of receptors that you see. One is the ion channel receptor, where the ligand binding will open up the ion channel, which will change the cell potential. Second, which is very, very common, all our senses like the visualization, taste, uh, to see something, all those are, basically coupled with the G protein coupled receptor, where we have a receptor which is bound to the intracellular G protein, which has the 3 unit alpha, beta, and gamma. And once a ligand binds, the G protein gets activated because it will change the GDP, or it will exchange the GDP with the GTP. And third is enzyme linked receptor. One which is very, very common is the RTKs, receptor tyrosine kinases, where the ligand will bind, will lead to the dimerization, and some signal molecule will be activated because the intracellular part will create the docking site where the different molecule having the similarity in their structure or complementarity will come and bind to, and the process they get activated. This is a very brief idea exactly how the signal transduction takes place. We can see here is that the basic step is the binding, and once the transduction occur, the signal is going to be relayed. It is going to transduce and going to amplify. It can be integrated at a single place. It can be spread. It may have the anchor. It may have the modulator molecule which can modulate, which can eventually lead to the change in the gene expression. This is one shown, GPCR, which I told you the important senses: smell, eyesight, taste. All these are basically related with the GPCR, or G protein coupled receptor. As I told you, you have the 7 pass protein, which is on the intracellular side bound to the G protein, which is inactivated once it is bound to the GDP. It gets activated once this GDP is going to be exchanged with the GTP. Now, these are the RTK families, or we call it as a growth factors. If you see, basically the EGF, epidermal growth factor, insulin-like growth factor, NGF, platelet-derived growth factor, fibroblast growth factor, VEGF, EPH, or Ephrin. These are the examples of, or they are the different types of the RTKase molecule. One simple pathway which is shown over here, which is responsible for the cell division. So you see here the G protein gets activated. It is going to activate the MAP kinase 3 times. Then it is going to activate, and this the first one is also called as a RAF molecule. Here you can see the ATP is going to be utilized and it is going to be phosphorylated. Then the MEK is going to be activated, and then MEK is going to phosphorylate MAP kinase, which is called as ERK, by spending the ATP. And this MAP kinase can phosphorylate the several proteins, which can change the gene expression, which can change the protein activity, or which can change the cytoskeletal behavior, which generally does not occur in this case. Cell once get the signal or the different signaling molecule through the different receptor, they can cross talk. This is one phenomenon, means one kind of a receptor, if it binds to a particular molecule, produce some effect. Same kind of effect can be produced by the another receptor binding with the another ligand molecule. So this cross talking is very, very important. That is all about the cell signaling. Hopefully you enjoyed this lecture. We'll talk about more in the next lecture whenever we'll air this. And for any kind of information, you can comment in the comment box. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for today's lecture.